My dad phoned me. 37 calls in a single day, even after the court issued a restraining order. But I was caught up playing FIFA with my mom on the Xbox she got me a decade ago. As a kid, I was convinced my parents were destined to stay together forever. They seemed to embody what love looked like. Every morning, my dad would yell at my mom over trivial things, and every night she'd cry herself to sleep. It wasn't until I turned 8 that I realized this wasn't normal. My mom sat me down and explained that she and my dad were splitting up. Back then, I thought it was awesome because all I could think about was the fighting stopping. I'd get double birthdays, double Christmases, and that first year felt like a dream. My mom surprised me with an Xbox One, and seeing her smile, truly smile, for the first time, warmed my heart. So when I went to my dad's place, I was expecting something just as exciting, maybe even better. But he didn't get me anything. I wasn't a spoiled kid, so I brushed it off and spent December 26th playing FIFA, blasting Avicii's The Nights, and reminiscing about simpler times. Halfway through my game, my dad stormed into the room and yanked the cords out. "Your mom's a disgrace for spoiling you like that," he snapped. "You're too young to get it, but it shows she doesn't really love you." He was right. I didn't understand. But I knew one thing. I wanted to keep my dad happy. So I nodded, and we spent the rest of the day watching old NBA games from the 80s together. The next morning, when he was supposed to drive me back to my mom's, he was passed out on the couch clutching a beer bottle. I shook him awake, and the moment his eyes opened, he started sobbing. "Son, your mom's trying to tear us apart. It kills me when you're not here. Please don't leave." Looking into his tear-streaked face, I couldn't say no. I just nodded and hugged him as tightly as I could. Over the next few days, my dad enrolled me in a school near his place and pushed me to cut off contact with my mom. I was already getting picked on at my old school, so the change didn't seem like a big deal. But when New Year's Eve rolled around, I remembered how excited my mom had been to take me to a local ice cream shop. She'd promised to let me stay up until midnight to watch the Times Square ball drop on TV. So I asked my dad if I could use his phone to call her. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a black necklace with a broken heart pendant. "This is what it feels like when your mom tries to separate us," he said. "You're safe with me. Don't mess that up." He draped the necklace around my neck like it was my key to his world. I hid my sadness behind fake smiles and forced laughter, not wanting my dad to think he wasn't enough. I started resenting every kid I saw with their mom, jealous of how they took it for granted. When I got a bad grade or scraped my knee at the park, I longed for my mom to wrap me in her arms and tell me everything would be okay. Looking back, I never really healed from that pain. I just let my heart grow cold and bitter. Every Christmas, I'd beg my dad to let me see my mom. But he'd insist she'd moved on with a new guy and forgotten about me. When I looked her up on Facebook, I saw a photo of her with another man, and I started believing my dad's words, that she'd left us behind without a second thought. By 16, I'd been through nearly 8 failed relationships, none lasting longer than a year. My dad taught me that women couldn't be trusted, they'd always leave you, and that men were just as bad, always out to use you. Then, a few months later, my dad got into a car accident. He walked away unscathed and scored a hefty insurance payout. I was so shocked that I felt the need to reach out to an adult, my mom. I called her from a new number I'd never used before. Before I could even speak, she gasped, "Is this Eric?" That's when I knew my dad had been lying. "Yeah," I replied softly, hesitantly. She asked for the address where I was. It was a 30-minute drive, but she showed up in the hospital waiting room in 20. The second she saw me, she threw her arms around me so tightly I thought she'd never let go. I didn't hug her back, just kept my arms limp at my sides. "Mom, how could you move on so quickly?" I blurted, my voice shaking. Her face crumpled. "Son, I've been fighting for custody since that Christmas when I last saw you," she said, tears streaming down her face as she apologized for missing so much of my life. The look in her eyes told me she was telling the truth, so I finally hugged her back. But as I did, a wave of anger crashed over me. My dad had stolen my childhood to feed his own ego. After that hospital reunion, I started secretly visiting my mom every Sunday. I told my dad I'd joined the school's robotics club. He didn't question it, too wrapped up in drinking and watching sports. My mom's apartment was smaller than I remembered,